Welcome to today's webinar on driving transformation through data-driven decision-making. My name is Stephanie McReynolds, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing here at Alation, and I'll be your host for today. As we're waiting for some additional folks to join the call, I see that a number of folks are just coming into the call. We'll start today with a little bit of humor that's relevant to digital transformations. I found this, I've been working with many of our customers who are going through digital transformations and determining how much data should play a role in their digital transformations. And I thought that this slide might bring some humor to our topic today. So I'll pause here for a few minutes and let you read the cartoon from Marketunist, and then we'll get started in a minute or two with the content for today. I guess I'm also hoping that in reading this cartoon, I'm getting rid of any of the technical issues we may have on the call. I expect the technology to work appropriately for us for today's webinar, but if anyone online is having challenges hearing the audio or seeing the visuals for today's presentation, please do use the chat window on the right-hand side of your console to let us know that you need some help. And one of our employees we'll be monitoring that chat window and trying to assist you in getting your audio or video to work appropriately as we share our content for today's webinar. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to read the cartoon and maybe have a laugh or two this morning or this evening if you're joining us from Europe. I will go ahead and share with you a few additional housekeeping items should you need them throughout today's webinar. We're planning for about 60 minutes of content, including a 10 to 15-minute slot for questions and answers. Please do ask questions. We would love to have this session today with Doug Henschen be interactive. The best way to use questions is actually to use the window on the right that says questions. On the right-hand side of your console, you'll see two different window options available. One is a chat window and the other is a question window. If you do have a question to ask either presenter today, enter it within the questions tab. If you have any technical issues, please enter them within the chat tab at the right-hand side. And that'll just help us queue up everyone's needs appropriately. We also encourage everyone, if there's something that you find particularly enticing or interesting, to share your thoughts on social media, on Twitter in particular. And you'll see here data catalog as our hashtag and the @Alation handle as the areas where we'll be responding to those comments. We will not be showing a demonstration of Alation in this presentation. So I know sometimes that's an expectation of attendees, and I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. If the only thing you wanted was a live demonstration of Alation, please go to alation.com/learn-more and express your interest in a live demo, and we'll get a personalized demo set up for you with one of our sales development professionals here. So please, if you came just for a demo, please use that link to get your needs fulfilled. Today we'll be talking about data catalogs for sure and business strategies for digital transformation with data, but we won't be showing a live demo. I also wanted to let everyone know, which is a common question, that there will be a replay. All attendees and all registrants will receive a link to see the replay, and you can share that replay with colleagues. Unfortunately, we will not be sharing the slides from today's presentation, but you will have access to those slides through a full replay. So just to let folks know that will be the format for today. And hopefully we got everyone's housekeeping questions addressed. Again, if anything wasn't addressed, enter it within the chat window and we'll respond to it right away. So today, I'd love to get started with our main content. You see a picture of me on the right-hand side there. In addition to me, I'm very pleased to have Doug Henschen joining us. Doug is Vice President and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research. He has been involved for many years in research on data-driven decision-making. And in particular, he focuses on how organizations employ data analysis to reimagine their business models. And so particularly when it comes to a deeper understanding of customers and how that might support a reimagining of the business model, Doug is a wealth of knowledge. Prior to Constellation, he led analytics, big data, business intelligence, and smart applications, research and coverage at Information Week, where he was an executive editor for 5 years. And prior to that, he had many years of coverage of the data and analytics space. So certainly just a fantastic thought leader for technologies that are relevant to having data be at the heart of your digital transformation. And so we are very pleased to have him with here today. He will introduce, based on some current research that he's doing, the topic that we're going to discuss about today and share some of his observations of the market. And then I will come back towards the end of the presentation and share a little bit more detail about data catalogs and how the work that we're doing at Alation with over 100 organizations who have adopted data catalogs is helping with digital transformations. And so without further ado, I would like to pass the presentation rights over to Doug and let him jump into the research.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. Appreciate the kind words. So today's event was inspired in part by a report I published late last year entitled How to Blend Self-Service and Solid Governance, which is really about how data catalogs help to drive self-service and big data initiatives. Now, self-service is a cornerstone of getting to a broader data-driven decision-making. And why is that important? Well, it's a big part of how leading companies are trying to drive digital transformation and innovation. And they're pursuing these initiatives because we're clearly living in these disruptive times. We're seeing young upstart competitors disrupting established companies, and every company is really coping with today's accelerated business environment. But let me start by defining digital transformation, because too many people think of it as a technology shift when it's really much more of really a cultural shift for many companies. Now, Constellation sees digital leaders as organizations that are transforming their customer experiences, their internal processes, or both. And they're often doing so by digitizing those processes and developing data-driven insight into their customer interactions and their business operations. Now, also important, a digital leader is a company that can course correct in response to changing conditions and make better data-driven decisions. Now, today we'll be talking about self-service analytics and data lakes, but remember that these are merely technology and process enablers, and that a business and cultural shift may be required to drive innovation and true transformation. Now, we all know that businesses come and go, but with advances in technology and the latest moves towards digitization, the cycle of disruption has accelerated. In 2003, the average company joining the S&P 500 was 25 years old. By 2013, it had dropped to 10 years, and it's getting even lower as innovation has accelerated. Now, the digital leaders are not only seizing the lion's share of the market, they are seizing the lion's share of the profits through differentiating services and better customer experiences. And we're seeing disruptors and innovators push stodgy, unresponsive, non-agile organizations out of business. Amazon and leading brick and mortar retailers, for example, are driving the last nails into the coffin of Sears. We're also seeing upstart innovators like Tesla and business model disruptors like Rocket Mortgage and Dollar Shave Club take significant market share from incumbents. Now, you don't have to be a startup company to be an innovator. Established banks like Capital One are using agile methodologies and big data and cloud agility to deliver standout online and mobile banking experiences. Another example is Progressive Insurance, which came out with its Snapshot service to offer discounts based on analysis of customer-specific driving behaviors. Now that service relies on vast amounts of data and cutting-edge data science, but it's a win-win. Customers get lower rates and Progressive gets higher margins, and it's because it's retaining safe drivers as customers. So the key question for established companies is, how can we avoid landing up on the wrong side of this digital divide? Now, to give you a little insight on Constellation Research, we spend most of our time trying to learn what the market-leading companies are doing so we can help other companies become fast followers. And the idea is to help these companies embrace the emerging trends and technologies while avoiding the pitfalls and mistakes encountered by the innovators. Now, when we look at business and technology trends, we do so through the lens of our Astro chart. Now, on the vertical axis, we have organizational adoption from mainstream to early adopter to bleeding edge. And on the horizontal axis, we assess the business impact from incremental to transformational to exponential. So at the top right of this Q1 2019 business trends chart, we have general artificial intelligence, which is purely it's science fiction at this point. And then at the opposite extreme, in the lower left, we have trends like business process management and GDPR and the California Consumer Privacy Act, which are already, or in the case of CCPA, are soon to be widely adopted, yet they're unlikely to deliver more than incremental business benefits. Now, most relevant to today's webinar, I've highlighted in yellow bleeding edge and early adopter business trends, including customer understanding and mass personalization and real-time decision-making and digital transformation. Now, these trends promise transformational or even exponential business advantage. Now, here on our Astro chart for technology trends, the emerging trends relevant to this webinar, again highlighted in yellow, include self-service BI and analytics, data lakes, predictive analytics, machine learning, and of course, data catalogs. Now, most of these trends are in the early adopter stage, and they promise transformational business impact. Now, the threat of disruption is why business leaders are so interested in digital innovation. Now, our Constellation Research Digital Transformation Study, which we published late last year, shows that more than 2/3 of companies with innovation initiatives are seeing positive returns. And the study also confirms that big data, cloud, and data-driven decision-making are a big part of those innovation plans. And we surveyed more than 80 CXOs at leading companies, and we confirmed for the second year in a row that the #1 transformation priority is to engage with customers more effectively. And this obviously closely relates to the need to quickly access all customer relevant data. As for building competitive advantage and implementing data-driven business models, these desires to hinge on making use of all available data to drive innovation, differentiation, and superior service. Now, looking at the obstacles to transformation, lack of talent, like the challenge hiring enough data experts, underscores the need to empower business users with self-service. Resistance to change is also a challenge. So tech initiatives should simplify rather than contribute to complexity and confusion and all these things that are weaknesses of current deployments. So just a level deeper on this research, an overwhelming majority of respondents said that they are increasing their investments in both big data and cloud to support their transformation initiatives. So as seen here, 75% of respondents reported planned increases, whether significantly or slightly, in their big data spending. And 77% said they would spend more on cloud. Now, these investments are naturally increasing data volumes, they're increasing data variety, and they're creating a more distributed data landscape. So more trends that are complicating self-service and making data catalogs that can span all data sources crucial to supporting that self-service and easy access to information. So even if you're not a chief innovation officer or a chief data officer or a chief information officer, I would encourage you to think about your data-related innovation projects in the context of your brand, your business model, your digital strategy. As you consider self-service, big data, cloud initiatives, other sorts of data initiatives, think about how your organization is trying to empower employees, improve their customer experience, and drive better decisions. The projects that are aligned with the organization's larger innovation and transformation goals and vision, those are the projects that are most likely to win executive support. So now let's dig in on how to drive self-service with good governance. Now the core advice in this section draws on the How to Blend Self-Service and Solid Governance report that I mentioned. And the good news is that Alation is making copies of this report available to attendees of today's webcast. So don't worry about taking notes, because you'll be able to download a free copy of the in-depth 17-page report. So here's the paradox. Data has become the lifeblood of organizations, driving new customer experiences and internal optimization efforts. And yet the task of making sure that data is accessible, secure, and well-governed has never been more challenging. Not only has the volume and variety of data being managed increased, the number of sources has multiplied. Many of them are moving to the cloud and to the edge. Now, self-service initiatives compound access demands and governance challenges. Data lakes are routinely measured in the hundreds of terabytes, if not petabytes. And unstructured and variable data are almost always in the mix with the data lakes. Cloud-based and virtualized deployments are now commonplace, all while data privacy laws are sprouting up around the globe and regulatory requirements are only getting more demanding. So the broad push towards self-service and emerging low-code and no-code development approaches are raising the bar of user expectations. Those users now expect easy and consistent access to timely information, even real-time information. They expect personalization and consumer-grade interfaces and mobile and social capabilities. And increasingly, users also expect machine learning and AI-driven predictions and recommendations and so-called smart features. And with that, there's going to be a demand for visibility into the underlying data and understanding of the basis of any recommendations that are formed and provided by these capabilities. Now, self-service and the move to the cloud are complicating governance and therefore trust. Self-service business intelligence and analytics initiatives are expanding access to data. Yet broader access multiplies the development of reports and new visualizations, the demand for access to those reports and yet more data, and it complicates security and access control. Data lakes are destined to get exponentially larger thanks to IoT initiatives and all this move into machine learning and AI initiatives that breathe on data. They need all the data they can get. At the same time, growing data volumes and data variety will make, again, that governance that much harder, complicating data quality demands, data certification, and tracking of data lineage. Now, the push to drive new business models is spawning data enrichment and data monetization programs. So companies are using location, weather, and psychographic data. And they're being used to bring deeper insight and personalization to customer experiences and to customer services. Now, all of those moves introduce yet more data, and again, often third-party data, and that complicates data management and governance issues. Data platform monetization presents yet another moving target. Cloud-based database services and big data platform services, streaming capabilities, and object stores are managing a growing share of enterprise data. But how do you balance data access with solid governance across cloud and on-premises data landscapes? Inconsistencies, data quality problems, lapses in governance can have a corrosive effect on trust. And when trust is diminished, it undermines the value of data and faith in your data team. So if I haven't scared you, the good news is that technologies are emerging that offer better visibility into data. Namely, catalogs are emerging to help organizations create an inventory of available data assets. But it's important to look for catalogs that can span all sources across an enterprise. Now today, spanning all sources, including those deployed on premises and those deployed in the cloud, and the catalog must address conventional relational sources as well as NoSQL platforms and data lakes containing semi-structured, unstructured information. Now the most fundamental capability that catalogs provide is indexing. Now, leading catalogs crawl available sources, reading metadata and automatically indexing data and related assets by source, by format, physical location, creation date, definitions, and other attributes. Now, best of breed products also include a business glossary that enables organizations to label and describe data in the language of the business. And then this business view and business lingo is linked to the technical metadata back in the source systems. Search is another fundamental catalog capability, and this feature makes data and related assets visible to both business users and to technical users through kind of a user-friendly internet search style interface. Now, advanced catalogs also support natural language querying, going beyond keywords to discern the intent of phrases and questions. Now, collaboration is another capability of leading catalogs, and here's where mapping and crowdsourcing features come in. Mapping features log data inputs, outputs, and access and query patterns. Now, benefits here include enriched tagging and statistical understanding of how data is used, by whom, and how assets are related. Advanced machine learning functionality can also generate recommendations based on those user and role-based access and query patterns. Now, crowdsourcing features help people communicate around data, and it captures sort of the tribal knowledge in the form of user annotations and ratings and recommendations that they can all share, and all participants, both technical and business, can see this tribal knowledge. So catalogs are a great start to improving data accessibility, but many catalogs do not support all sources or all deployment choices, and many fall short of capturing business metadata and fostering collaboration. There's a lot of data catalogs out there that are coming out of the woodwork, but many are really kind of siloed catalogs for one source of data. So in Constellation's view, these broader capabilities are crucial in differentiating for what we would call, an enterprise-grade data catalog. Now, another boundary line exists between catalogs that do and do not address data governance, or that integrate with products that address these data governance concerns. The comprehensive solutions go beyond glossary functionality to address or integrate with products that handle metadata management and standardization of terms, also known as reference data. Comprehensive solutions should also be able to support or synchronize with data quality and data certification capabilities, giving greater weight to authoritative sources and official watermarked or approved data sets or reports. Now, data catalogs don't tend to include data stewardship functionality, such as role-based workflows that connect stewards and subject matter experts and data owners and process owners. But here's where you should, again, consider integrations and partnerships and ways in which the catalog can support the stewards. Now, knowing the provenance of data is vital in any regulated environment, but tracking data lineage here too gets more challenging as data pipelines move into the cloud. And here's where you'll need to ensure that lineage functionality spans data platforms. It's not just a single source of lineage. Data integration and transformation steps, and both on-premises and cloud-based deployments. Now, regulations are often country-specific, so it's also crucial to know exactly where data is physically processed and stored. Comprehensive governance includes policy capabilities that enable data stewards, owners, and compliance teams to detail security, legal, and strategic requirements. And leading catalogs can surface these policies and advise would-be users on certified and favored data sources, even the lifespan of a data source and terms of data access and use. So to sum up, providing access to data is just the first step. Mature organizations recognize that data is only as valuable as it is trusted. And to be trusted, data must be made accessible in accordance with data governance requirements. And that's why Constellation recommends the following. First, provide self-service data access that's tied to governance capabilities. Now, catalogs ease access to data, but they should also integrate with or support data policies and classifications such as public, regulated, and restricted. Now, this can spur digital innovation because you can reveal the existence of data and descriptions of what it contains without actually exposing the actual content. And that supports, requests for access to the data. People know what's available and potential new uses of that information. Now, second, ensure well-defined data and business user-friendly terms. Data catalogs often include business glossaries for defining user-friendly descriptions that make sure that the catalog can also link these business terms to the technical metadata. Third, provide a platform for data collaboration. Catalogs should include these collaborative capabilities so stakeholders ranging from business users to data owners to stewards to engineers and data scientists can all be connected and communicate around the data and the related assets. Fourth, best-of-breed data catalogs go beyond collaboration to capture data and asset-specific annotations, ratings, and reviews. And on the cutting edge, machine learning is used by leading catalogs to automatically capture data access and usage patterns, providing sort of a ground truth that can then be enhanced with the tribal knowledge and collaborative comments that people can add on that data. Finally, I would look for support for features or integrations with tools for enforcing data policies and data sharing agreements, and that might cover whether and how data can be shared, as well as requirements for things like encryption and masking and access expiration dates. So with all of this catalog and governance advice in mind, let's just recap and return to the wider context of how they can drive digital innovation and transformation, and explore how to organize such projects. So first, start by identifying the business need and the potential business value, not technologies. This is not about technology for technology's sake. Once the business goal is clear, you can then address self-service, big data, cloud development requirements, and breakthrough possibilities fueled by data, such as predictive or prescriptive applications, natural language processing, machine learning, AI, smart automation. And once you have the innovation project underway, take an agile DevOps style approach characterized by fast sprints, frequent collaborative review, revision, and change management sessions with the business. That resistance to change is usually what foils a real transformation. So how do you organize for success? Well, that old saw about business and IT collaboration applies, but there has to be a balance. If IT stays in its comfort zone, you'll likely be too conservative and fall short of innovation. If the business takes charge, it's likely to be rogue IT, credit card cloud, and that can mean disconnected silos of data and poor governance. Now I'll finish with this question, because if you're not asking it and planning toward it today, the future is not going to materialize 3 years from today. Now I've cited examples of digital innovation today, including the breakthrough agility and speed and ease of online and mobile transactions provided by the likes of Capital One and Rocket Mortgage. I cited the game-changing usage-based pricing approach introduced by Progressive and now used by others to base pricing based on customer behavior. And then there's the business model disruptors, Dollar Shave Club, Stitch Fix, Blue Apron, and other .coms. So the possibilities are really endless. I've talked to auto and equipment manufacturers that have introduced smart mobile apps supporting predictive maintenance and alerting. I've encountered credit card companies that are aggregating data and selling market share and demographic insights to small business owners. And I've talked to banks that are analyzing aggregated data to sell industry performance benchmarks to their commercial customers. And now more often than not, these great ideas, these innovations will harness data, and therefore they must be built on a foundation of better and easier access to information. So Stephanie, I'll turn things back to you.
Thank you, Doug. As always, you're a wealth of knowledge for our audience. And so I wanted to remind everyone, if they have a question for Doug, to please enter it in the questions tab within your console, and we will queue those up for the Q&A session coming up in a few minutes. What I'd like to do before we get to Q&A is share a little bit of Alation's experience working with over 100 enterprises that have deployed or in the middle of deploying their data catalog initiatives, and tie those back into the reality of what it takes for a digital transformation. Most of the data catalog implementations that we're observing with our customers start with addressing the productivity issue that Doug touched on in some of his research, where the #1 challenge with digital transformation initiatives is the lack of talent to staff projects. And so data catalogs often are used to improve the productivity of those existing data and analytics specialists that you may have who are trying to get data-driven answers back to the rest of the organization. But there are certainly a number of companies that we're working with who are also thinking about how a data catalog can support their broader digital transformation and actually drive business outcomes. And I wanted to share one of those companies with you today and talk a little bit about the details of how they've made that transformation. This company is GoDaddy. And GoDaddy today is the world's largest domain registry. What many of you may remember GoDaddy for is a series of Super Bowl ads. For about 10 years, GoDaddy differentiated themselves by their outrageous ads during the Super Bowl. Danica Patrick hosted many of those ads. The last ad that they did was in 2013 and caused quite a controversy. It was part of their Smart Meet Sexy campaign. And as you can see, if you remember any of those ads, their focus at the time was really supporting a developer-centric community. Those ads year after year were rated the lowest of any ads in the Super Bowl consistently in consumer polls. But they were super effective because they targeted a small niche audience that GoDaddy was going after. The risque ads talked to the developer community in a way that other marketing techniques they were using did not. What was at the core of their digital transformation, however, with the introduction of a new CEO, was a realization that GoDaddy's customer base was changing, that it was no longer sufficient to target just a developer-centric community, but CEO Scott Wagner really made a significant change to their strategy and wanted his teams to think more broadly about what their customer base looked like and have a more comprehensive customer-first approach to going to market. And to do that, he had a strong perspective with the leadership team at GoDaddy that transformation needed to be more data-driven, that if they couldn't have access to the raw data to identify who their customers actually were and take a more targeted approach to segmentation, not just assuming that everyone was a developer who purchased GoDaddy products, that they would not be successful. And what you see in the stock chart presented here is over a period of time from 2013 to 2018, and even continuing to the present, GoDaddy was able to use this strategy to significantly impact their revenue growth and their stock price growth. So in the first quarter of 2018, they had seen a 29% increase in revenue growth, a 36% increase in stock price growth. And they attributed that to this change in business their business model, and a cultural shift that focused on using data to make decisions as to how to better target their customer base. The Alation data catalog was introduced at GoDaddy in 2014, integrated with Tableau and their data lake implementation as a part of this change. If you talk to Sharon Graves and some of the leaders that implemented Alation and Tableau and were at the front leading that change, they'll talk about how they created first a self-service environment by providing raw access to the data. But they quickly identified that raw access to the data through tools like Tableau often led to inaccurate answers. That accuracy and trust in data was really critical to making this cultural shift. And that's where the data catalog came in. That if you're trying to go beyond your data specialist audience, if you're trying to enable product managers to use data to make decisions, the accuracy of the data and the ability to steward it for trust has a significant impact on creating trust in data for those users. And so what they did at GoDaddy is they used the data catalog as a way to support the expansion of data knowledge throughout the organization, leveraging collaboration aspects of a data catalog, as well as just the basic technology to inventory what users had access to and begin to provide a more unified approach to managing certified data sources and certified queries and certified reports and dashboards through Tableau. So today, there is a team of about 50 data stewards who are using Alation to do everything from certify existing reports and dashboards that may have originally been generated in more of a sandbox environment. So they have an active stewardship process to index, to look at, to validate, and then to promote to a unified data source, reports, dashboards, and derived data sets that could be useful to the rest of the organization. And those data stewards are also using the Alation tool as a way to define a consistent business glossary for the entire organization that supports deeper understanding of the data that's available to different end users. The chart on this slide gives you a sense of just how many people at GoDaddy are actually involved in their self-service analytics initiatives. There's roughly 2,300 users of Tableau at GoDaddy. A large portion of those are product owners, but that's not the majority of the usage. They have about a little over 100 product owners that are using Alation. That initial audience that they needed to reach out to with consistent data for analysis. They have about 60 business and analytics professionals, about 10 business intelligence professionals, and then the balance of 2,200 individuals are more business people who just want access to the data to be able to really help out with this transformation of culture and data-driven decisions at GoDaddy. And so what you see at GoDaddy is a very interesting, pretty robust foundation for all of these users to be able to consistently use the data that's available in the organization to get a deeper, consistent understanding of their customer base. I mentioned that they use something called unified data sources. These are data sources that are actually certified and managed by that data stewardship team within Alation. So you're seeing here a screenshot of a unified data source. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see that an end user has come in and wants to do an inquiry around orders, develop some analysis around orders. So they've typed into the search bar UDS order and found some of the certified unified data sources in the system. You can see on the left-hand side that there's different icons identifying different types of unified data sources. The one that we've clicked on is open on the right-hand side is actually a table in their Hive instance on top of that data lake that they're using. You can see from the icons on the left-hand side that there's other things that come back in that search inquiry, including query snippets that could be reused. as well as articles that further document descriptions and details about best practices on how to use this order information. So on the right-hand side, you see the detail of what the UDS order table entails. And that is a combination of information that has been gleaned automatically from indexing and crawling the systems, where we can automatically determine who are the individuals who are most using this particular table for their queries. And it's a combination of that automated intelligence as well as some manual effort the data stewards have done to write a description here, which is very rich in its detail for other users. If you were to scroll further down that page, you would see sample columns and content. And I think most interestingly, what the system automatically generates are some of the published queries that are best practices for usage of this information. So you can think about this as a great way for individuals who might not be as familiar with this order table to come in and view these published queries and get some best practices help with how to best navigate this particular table and how to use it in its entirety. So this is a good example of how a data catalog starts to become a living catalog for usage. And the inspiration for this type of a data catalog that can increase productivity on average 20 to 40% in the accounts that we work with, the inspiration for this type of a living catalog really came from the consumer space. In looking at systems that catalog, like LinkedIn, that catalog professionals that you know, like Amazon, which catalogs the world's products and makes them available, and like Google, which catalogs websites for us. And what's common in all these consumer models is that having a catalog that just indexes information and provides an inventory is not quite enough. What all of these consumer catalogs have in common is actually recommendation engines that provide suggestions to the end user in the flow of their work. Those can be suggestions of websites, those can be suggestions of other products you might be interested in, or those can be suggestions of other individuals you might want to reach out to in your social network. And so if you think of data catalogs as living modern catalogs that are providing trust in the data assets you have in your organization, you start to understand why the search functionality as well as the recommendation functionality becomes super important to driving the types of business results that we're talking about for digital transformations. So this is a screenshot of the search interface in Alation that I just talked about. What does the recommendation interface look like? For data recommendations, it's not enough to just show what's been upvoted or downvoted or developed out of collaboration in the environment. It's more relevant when you can provide a recommendation of a filter or a join or actual SQL syntax that end users may need to use as they're writing queries for the system. So this particular screenshot shows you, for a more advanced user, someone who might be using a SQL editing tool, how Alation as a data catalog can start to make recommendations of filters that are commonly used in the business. So we use machine learning technology that observes the SQL syntax that is being run in the most common reports and dashboards that you're using, and you leverage that to make recommendations of what are the common use cases and common SQL query snippets that you should be aware of as an analyst who might be writing a new SQL query. In this particular screenshot, you're seeing Alation automatically translate and provide a filter that does the translation between a lookup table and the main table that they're working with. And so that speeds up the work of that analyst significantly. They merely can right-click on one of these recommendations, and the syntax is filled out within the query editor. This is available in an Alation product called Compose, which is shipped with the Alation data catalog. In addition to providing those types of recommendations based on popularity of usage of particular SQL queries, we also have ensured that Alation as a data catalog can make recommendations based on data governance rules and standards in the organization. And so if you think about the best way to be compliant with data governance rules and best practice suggestions, it's providing the end user with recommendations within the very course of their work. And so what you see on this screen here down at the bottom of the screenshot is a recommendation that they not use the field they would like to use in this query because it's been deprecated, because there has been an improvement made. There's a recommendation of a different field for them to use in a different table in the database. So this color coding that we're doing here within Compose, again, highlights what's good to use in green, what might have a warning on it or a nuanced detail that the analyst needs to keep in mind, or what might be deprecated or should not be used in the way that the analyst is trying to use it because it would violate a data governance rule. And so in this way, we're providing not only positive recommendations and sharing best practices with end users by looking at the popularity of snippets and queries and data assets that have already been used in the environment, but also ensuring that where we need to enforce compliance and regulate risk, we're also sharing that in the flow of the analyst's work. And this feature has been implemented as an extension of the data catalog, not only in Alation's products for SQL query editing, but through relationships that we have with third-party tools, we're also able to surface up this information in other business intelligence and data science tools as well. So in this case here, you're seeing Salesforce Einstein Analytics and an integration we have with Salesforce Einstein Analytics to identify what's been certified as a report and what should not be used. And those certification processes are being run by data stewards within the Alation data catalog. Similarly, in Tableau, within the Tableau interface, Tableau has an API that receives information from Alation on whether a data source has been certified or not, and can prompt the end user with a little bit of information as to who's certified that data source and why it's been certified as well. And so this capability of being able to provide trust in data is extended beyond the Alation interface to other third-party products that reach a broader audience of users within your environment. So I've gone through that information fairly quickly, but I wanted to get everyone a little bit of a taste of how a company like GoDaddy has seen significant business impact by leveraging a data catalog at the core of their digital transformation, and then also give you a little bit of a brief preview of the Alation product and some of its more modern capabilities that go beyond the basics of data cataloging. I know folks may have a number of questions that they'd like answered, so I will open it up to questions now. If you do have a question, please enter it within the questions tab of the application that you're using to view the webinar. And if anyone has to drop off, I know sometimes these run a little long for folks' schedules. I'd like to share with you that if you would like a copy of Doug's full report, all 17 pages, you can download that report from the alation.com website at this address. And Doug has also provided his contact information should anyone like to follow up with him directly with specific questions that might be more personal in nature. And with that, I will open up with questions. And Doug, hopefully we haven't lost you here because I have some great questions for you that have come in.
I'm here.
Excellent.
I like that line, recommendations in the flow of work, and that analogy to those consumer catalogs. That's a great description.
It makes it so much easier for analysts to see best practices, but then also comply with some of the regulations we like them to comply with for data governance purposes. So there's a very detailed question here. I'm just going to read the whole thing rather than trying to summarize it. So this is for you, Doug. Would you say there is a minimum data management maturity an organization would have to achieve before it could realize the benefits of a data catalog, e.g. having a data lake, having an enterprise data model, or mature governance?
No, I wouldn't say there is. I think having a data catalog is a really good tool to help with maturation. For example, as companies are moving data to the cloud, they often do things in a tactical way, and they don't understand the connections. And sort of an enterprise-grade data catalog that helps you understand how data is connected and how it is used is a great way to plan migrations of data to the cloud, if you're doing that, or to see and understand breakdowns in the data flow. So I wouldn't say you have to become a mature organization and then use a catalog. Rather, I'd say a catalog is a tool that could help you to strategize and kind of organize and think about your data, and then plan and deploy technology accordingly with a better understanding of actual use of data.
Great, thanks for that answer, Doug. I have one on GoDaddy that I'll answer. And the question is, in the GoDaddy example, did Alation help with the automation of any Tableau reporting? And if so, what was the overall impact? And so I'd like to spend just a few moments to clarify the Alation implementation with Tableau. So Alation does not automate the creation of any Tableau reports, but what Alation does is help with the reuse of existing work that has already been published through Tableau. What we see in many organizations, because Tableau is so easy to use, is that end users, their first intuition is not to search for what already exists, but to create something new from scratch. And while that's been super beneficial to organizations to get a culture of self-service analytics instantiated in their organization, what most companies find is that a year or 2 years into their Tableau implementation, they have a wild west of dashboards and reports that are not always accurate because they maybe aren't using the right data sources, or they aren't using the right logic to calculate their KPIs and filters. And so Alation's impact is to increase the reuse of existing reports and dashboards, and to ensure that those existing reports and dashboards can be more easily certified by more knowledgeable individuals in the organization. And those more knowledgeable individuals can be folks in your data team. They can be analysts that are subject matter experts. They can be data scientists that are subject matter experts. So that's up to you as to how you want to define who should certify reports. We also have the ability to crowdsource the curation by upvoting and downvoting particular reports and dashboards. And so what we see in most organizations is that those particular features and the ability to certify what's out there or to crowdsource evaluations of what's already out there significantly increases reuse and accuracy of the reports and dashboards that exist.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Stephanie. It's what we see when we talk to companies using Tableau or any really self-service environment. When self-service is successful, it has the downfall of having multiple versions of the truth if it doesn't have good, strong ways to show users what's already out there, what's certified, what is repeatable, kind of certified metrics, measures, reports, etc.
So Doug, here's a question for you, I believe. The individual looks like they're trying to solve some justification of data governance tooling in their organization. And they ask, how do I show how data governance will save money, and how much money might it save? How do I show the business value or cost savings to the business?
Well, that speaks to the productivity points that Stephanie was making, that just how much time, and it may be difficult to, but you have to maybe try and gauge how much time folks are spending looking for data. I mean, it's the old saw, the 80% of the time is just in preparation, getting access to data, and then preparing it. A big part of that, though, is just the access part. That's time and that's money. And then there's also that's the stick of regulation, like GDPR and this California Act that, actually, when in describing those, I said they're unlikely to have more than incremental benefits. But actually, those regulations have caused many big companies to really look at their infrastructure and the chaos of their current data methods and kind of start from square one and do a lot of reinvention and straightening out of some very convoluted data process flows and data management approaches that kind of evolved over time. But I think you have to look at productivity and you have to look at compliance as both aspects. And on the productivity side, it's definitely a financial benefit to organizations to stop spending so much time just looking for data.
Great. I have a little bit of a more technical question that someone asked for Alation, so I'll take this one. And it's, how is the metadata populated in the Alation data catalog? And I think this is a good question because this is the core innovation that makes data cataloging a lot faster to see business results out of than other IT-oriented technologies that have tried to solve metadata management or similar problems in the past. And so the metadata that's populated in the Alation data catalog is automatically populated in the Alation data catalog. So the Alation engine goes out and crawls your source databases, your query engines, and your business intelligence or data visualization tools, and connects to the metadata tables in those source systems. What that allows us to do is to bring over a copy of the metadata from those source systems and start to stitch together the lineage or the path that the data has traversed before it gets into a report or a dashboard. So we have pretty automated full visibility into the inventory and the linkages between your data assets from the moment that Alation is implemented in the account. What's particularly different about the Alation data catalog than some of the other data catalogs out there is that Alation also connects to your SQL query logs in all of those systems and uses machine learning to make inferences about and observations of behaviors as to how that data is being analyzed as it moves through your analytic pipeline. And that derived metadata is where a lot of the recommendation value is produced. And so this is a new innovation in the market that you won't see with more traditional metadata management tools. And it's what provides that business value impact from data cataloging in its most robust format, that increase of 20 to 40% of productivity. So hopefully that answers the question on how metadata is populated the data catalog with a little extra understanding of why these systems can be more business impactful than other systems that may have had similar functionality in the past. I think on that note, Doug, there was a question that came in about a little bit more on the cloud, from a cloud perspective. You know, there are a number of data catalogs out there, and you didn't specifically mention things like the AWS Glue data catalog amongst the data catalogs you're talking about. And it'd be interesting to hear a little bit more of why and what is the difference between some of those other offerings in the cloud and something like Alation that does work within the cloud but has a bit of a different focus. Yeah,
catalog is a loaded term these days. I've seen any number of catalogs introduced, but they're really, you got to look for the different classes of catalog, and AWS Glue data catalog is a classic example of really more of a technical data catalog, and it's really a platform specific catalog. So data in that catalog has to be in AWS, of course, and specifically in EMR, Athena, or Redshift Spectrum. So it's limited to a specific platform, and it also doesn't have this more of a business view of the data. It's a technical catalog. So those are useful. Enterprise data catalogs often kind of suck in the information from the more technical data catalogs and can work with those. So it's not, creating a redundant need to maintain two catalogs. It'll just suck in the information from that catalog. But it's not the sort of Uber catalog that looks across all sources, all deployment platforms.
Great. Thank you, Doug, for that clarification. I know there's a number of questions that came in that asked about specific sources Alation connects to. I would direct folks to the Alation product page on alation.com for a list of sources. There's some logos of the sources we connect to on that page. And if you have more detailed technical questions, please go to that same website, alation.com/learn more. And we'd be happy to put you in touch with folks that can answer questions that maybe aren't obviously answered on the website. We have hit the end of the hour, and so we're going to wrap up today. I apologize to anyone whose questions that we didn't get to. There were a lot of great questions that came in, but hopefully we've created some curiosity as to how data catalogs might be able to provide significant impact in your organization as you evaluate digital transformations and self-service analytics initiatives. And we look forward to continuing the conversation with you offline. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Doug, very much for sharing your knowledge and your research with us. And that is a wrap to our webinar today.
Thank you, and everybody have a great day.
Bye now.